Good afternoon, morning, evening or night, ladies and gentlemen. I am Jamie, hosting a As Good or Bad As They Say, our famous series, joined by
my dear brother,
Clay Jensen, signing in.
Also known as Alex.
Yeah, sorry.
Every now and again. I mean, it doesn't really matter which one you do.
No, it doesn't.
As long as you do one of them. Yeah, we've got quite the controversy to talk about today.
We've got a big chunky topic for this one.
Yeah, a big fat topic. So expect at least, we're aiming for 5-6 hours on this one.
I was thinking more about 25 hours, the same length of the game.
Okay.
That's fair.
Okay. Yeah. So of course we're talking about the, what's a good word to describe this one?
In terms of what?
Everything. Like
a video game?
Yeah, video game, that would do. The Last of Us, not 2, but part 2. It's that important to the story that it's not...
Yes, because
it's not the second one, it's the continuation of the first one.
Precisely.
Right? Now, Alex, why has this game been so controversial?
We got to start with square one. That being the leak.
Good place to start.
So a few months before The Last of Us 2 came out, one of the most insane leaks I have seen from a video game.
The most I have ever seen. I'm willing to say that. Like, the biggest leak. Because not only... It wasn't just like one aspect, one story beat. It was everything.
Yeah, most of the story was leaked before it came out. So
yeah.
And not like a typical leak where I remember like Halo 4 bits leaked about it, just little story nuggets here and there, but the
and
full
it wasn't
cutscenes were available to
exactly.
watch.
It wasn't a case of like a rumor, because I remember before the leaks, it was rumored that there was like a religious cult aspect in the game, and that was like, will there be? Won't there be? Whatever, no big deal. It's just speculation, just a rumor. But no, this was full cutscenes. We knew just facts about the story.
Yeah. There's nothing you could deny.
No.
But the one thing that was robbed, though, is the context of it all. The framing of it was... Because I saw a bunch of the spoilers, and a lot of it was just straight up wrong. So, yeah, the way we viewed this game was kind of warped from the beginning.
Definitely.
And... I mean, we had a question from someone on Twitter @HeyBexOfficial who simply asked, did the spoilers ruin it for you? And that's a question I've been grappling with, because I don't know what my opinion would be on the game if it had those surprises there for me that weren't ruined by the spoilers. Because so much of the controversy around this game is because from those initial leaks, the narrative was already kind of set in stone in a way.
Yeah.
As we saw with the review bombing from day one. And this is why we spent ages trying to just figure out a way how to frame this video and this conversation, because this game isn't just a game anymore. Now it's this whole political side to it. There's this whole narrative to it, which goes incredibly deep in so many different ways. So the conversation's kind of been warped in such a way where a lot of the nuance is lost.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about. There's not only all this stuff, the leaks and everything. There's the controversy post-leak. There's the game itself, just like the facts about the game, and then how all the controversy, the leaks and everything has affected us. Like Mark, I believe,
Marky boy. Yeah.
Good old Markiplier.
Yeah, it's a strange one, because I kind of see both sides, and I know that's such a boring take to be like, yeah, I'm in the middle. I see exactly where it is, but this video will spoil everything we can think of to do with the game. So spoilers.
So if you want to play it, pause this video, play the game, come back, and hear the important opinions.
Yeah, the two important opinions. So where do you stand then? Is The Last of Us 2, Part 2, as bad as they say?
No, definitely not. Absolutely not. Hands down, no.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's as bad as these review bombings indicate it as being. but I do have big problems with the story.
I think it's definitely fair to say it's not what you wanted.
Yeah, I think from my read on it is that you like it more than I do.
Yeah, I would definitely agree.
Because I came to the conclusion that The Last of Us to me meant something different to what it did to Naughty Dog.
Yeah.
For me, The Last of Us was not special because of its like zombie apocalyptic universe, which we've seen countless times before. What made it special was the new characters they established.
Yeah, the story they told.
Mostly that being Joel and Ellie, and the relationship they built over that game. So I don't think it was too crazy to expect some kind of continuation on that story, with the dramatic nugget being set up and not fully explored in the first game.
Yeah.
That being the truth of what happened with the Fireflies and all that, for those who played the first game and know what I'm talking about. But they kind of pull the rug from underneath you fairly quickly in part 2 and establish a totally different feel, I would say. There are points where it feels kind of more like the original Last of Us.
Yeah.
But I would say at like a top level, it's definitely going for something quite different than the first game. It's more about exploring these themes.
Yeah.
Whereas the first one was more a very intimate character study, mostly about Joel, to be honest. He was the main character.
Yeah, for sure.
And about where that kind of culminated, and this exploring this greyness in this choice that I would say a lot of people can empathize with. And part of the discourse at the moment is this kind of debate about Joel and whether what he did in the first game was right or wrong, effectively. And that was part of what made the first game so interesting, because it didn't have a cookie cutter ending. It kind of ended on this vague cliffhanger where you could kind of imagine or assume whatever you wanted based on it.
Yeah, I thought after the end of the first game, it was kind of reasonable to assume that Ellie just didn't believe him at all.
Yeah, it seemed clear from that last cutscene in the first game that there was clearly some suspicion there.
Yeah.
There was a lot. You could just tell that was like, oh, that's like a new jumping off point for another story type thing.
I don't know if I totally agree with you that it's going for, like, it's not a different feel to me.
I think it kind of is, in the way that
I think aspects are totally different. Like they really hammer home this like music connection between Ellie and Joel.
Yeah,
for the sake of the ending, which we'll talk about later. But
the reason I think the expectation thing plays a big role, and why I mentioned what I kind of thought The Last of Us was compared to what Naughty Dog clearly thought it was, is that we have to talk about the advertising a little bit.
Yeah.
And this isn't a way to like condemn the game, and I'm still kind of mixed on how I feel about the way they did this. But so what they did in the official marketing for The Last of Us Part 2 is they kind of teased Joel as being a more integral character in the story than he winds up being in the final game. And it's not a new thing. A lot of different companies make or adjust trailers to kind of frame things in a different way and make it look like the story might be going a different direction than it actually is, as a way so you can be surprised when you play the final product. And I don't know if it's just an oversight or they weren't really thinking about the way it comes across, but it kind of advertises the game as more of a Joel and Ellie kind of story. Yeah,
it totally does. And I think that is definitely something you shouldn't do when it comes to advertising.
Yeah, but I'm left thinking, how do they do anything else? They can't reveal that you play half the game as someone else, because that's like part of the game, and the game is structured around all these secrets.
Yeah.
And you playing as Abby for the second half, or however much it is, kind of only works if you don't know that you're going to be playing as her.
Yeah. Which they do allude to at the start of the game itself. So it's not that big of a shock.
Yeah, and also I'm thinking about, from that very first trailer, the one where Joel comes into the room while Ellie's playing the guitar.
Yeah.
The theories began of like how Joel could be like a ghost or something, or he's clearly, you know, dead in some way, or there'll be something to do with his death. All the theories are about Joel being
Dying
being
or
killed,
being dead.
or yeah, it was like the obvious place to take it.
Yeah, for sure.
Because the character was so grey and he had such a
I think
no
matter what way you look at the ending of The Last of Us 2, whether he made the right decision or not, what he did was bad. Like, the amount of people he killed was bad. So that character, I think, he sort of had to pay for the stuff he'd done. Like, they had set him up as someone that is bad, and in fiction, bad people tend to be punished.
Yeah. It made sense, and I think it's what everyone expected in some form. However, it's the execution, I believe, to be the problem. I feel like this is where we just have to kind of just get into it with kind of going through the major characters and the story. Because, I mean, let's be real. It's the story people are talking about, not the game. I really feel like the gameplay, sorry. I really feel like if the story was what people were expecting a bit more, and I'm not saying that's a good or bad thing necessarily, everyone would be happy with it, you know.
Yeah,
if it was what everyone dreamed of and everyone was pleased with it, and the gameplay was the same, I feel like a lot of people would just be happy with that. Yeah. Because a lot of it is improved over the first game. Yeah, absolutely. It feels way less video gamey with the moving the ladders around and, you know, all the sections from the first
every
one.
section that is sort of like that did sort of make me roll my eyes. Like, the first thing you do when you switch characters to Abby, it's like, oh, there's a bin that needs to be moved to climb over a fence.
Yeah. I mean, there's obviously a lot we can talk about with the gameplay, but I feel like it's the story that's more interesting to talk about.
Yeah,
right now.
Well, that's the controversial part.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So this might be the biggest point of contention with the game, the Joel thing. We've been beating around the bush all this time, but the game practically opens with Joel being beaten to death by the new character Abby, in the most like brutal way you can imagine. Shotguns his leg basically off. Yeah. Then she makes a point of kind of dragging out his death and basically torturing him, smashing his head in with a golf club. Yeah, definitely torture. And the point of the scene is to rob you of a character you have emotional investment in, to force you to be as emotional as Ellie in the moment, so you feel all the rage she does as a way to, you know, get you invested in her plight of revenge. But as I say, it's kind of the execution of that scene that the emotional kind of tone of it reads wrong to me. I wasn't lost in the moment, like with Ellie, like empathizing with how horrible and horrendous it must feel. I was more just frustrated at the way it all came together, and it clearly seemed like the scene was written in a way where that just had to happen. It didn't feel like a natural interaction. That whole beginning section with all the characters really quickly coming together and really quickly having this conflict and kind of skipping over everything.
That part is oddly paced, and I just want to ask though, you knew about the spoilers already. When you first played. Do you think your reaction would have been different to that whole segment had you not?
I think I would have been shocked, but I don't know if it would have been good shock, because it really reminds me of The Walking Dead, where there are those moments where it's all about the shock value. Yeah,
I'm thinking my reaction would have been, at first, that scene I wouldn't have minded. And, well, I mean, it would have pissed me off, but in the right way. Yeah. But then on repeat playthroughs, when you're expecting it, that whole segment just does not work leading up to Joel's death.
Right.
in my opinion.
Okay.
Like you said, the way all these characters have to converge in a really awkward way.
And like they after they beat Tommy and Joel, killing Joel, and leave Ellie alive for whatever reason, like there's just so many things that have to happen for the setup to even make sense.
Yeah,
which I didn't understand the first time playing it. It was like, well, you're on this like hyper revenge mission. Why even leave any strands? You know, like it seems so weird. You've trekked across the country for this one reason.
It should seem so obvious to them as well, because from Ellie's reaction to Joel being killed,
doesn't she literally say something like, "I'm gonna kill you"?
Yeah, she literally does. And this character that killed Joel has just gone on her own journey, knowing how motivated she is to kill Joel, because Joel did the exact same thing to her. If maybe it's a guilt thing that they left them alive, because they do
some of the members of Abby's gang are like, come on, we don't need to, like, that's enough type thing.
Well, they're all sort of, everyone in Abby's group is like, should we, shouldn't we? And then Abby is the one that says,
well, they're all okay with Joel dying, aren't they?
Yeah. I think
Maybe
the
not as
majority of them were Fireflies. And they all agree that he deserved to be killed in that way.
Punishment, yeah.
But it is Abby's choice to leave Tommy and Ellie.
And I think my biggest problem with it is just the sheer brutality of it. And I have no problem with The Last of Us being this hopeless, violent world. That makes sense. But where it struggles for me from a like storytelling perspective is they expect you to empathize with this character, Abby, after a certain point, and you already know her. She is defined, and she will always be defined as a character as the one that killed Joel. Mm-hmm. And that is such an uphill battle to try and win you back. And I know this is a debated point, because for a lot of people, they do think in that section of the game where you play as Abby that you are kind of won over to her, and they develop her enough to kind of complete what the game is going for, where it's like, hey, the evilness of this universe we're playing with is more grey than it looks, and when you see both sides of it, everyone is kind of exploring the same space, you know? Everyone has the evilness and the forgiveness and revenge cycle of it all is kind of the heart of it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what to suggest about the Joel thing to make it better, because a lot of people agree that the pacing in the game isn't great, and the way the story is delivered is kind of muddy. The way there are flashbacks within flashbacks, the scene structure of things where you're getting payoffs for setups like 20 hours later, which, to be honest, I'm kind of conflicted on if it works or not, because depending on the medium, that would be okay or not okay.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for me personally, the ending really works in an emotional aspect,
yeah, because those story beats I was expecting to be explored in The Last of Us Part 2 with Joel and Ellie are technically in there. That's what's weird about this, because after the initial Joel death scene, and I was playing it, and you're kind of like, I don't know if I even care about this anymore. But then you get to that first scene, like a flashback scene with Joel and Ellie, and you're like, oh, this is kind of the stuff I was expecting to see. And then you keep playing and you get a few more, and it fleshes that side of the story out a bit more.
Yeah.
And once you finish the game, you do see that story kind of played out. It's just in an order you didn't expect.
Yeah, it's quite bizarre, because often with games, it's putting you in the perspective of a character. And you're going through everything chronologically. This game intentionally doesn't show you things that the character you're playing as knows.
Yeah.
But they show it to you in a way to make it the most emotionally impactful. And it's told like a story. No, it's not a story, sorry, a movie.
It's told like a movie.
Yeah, totally.
But movies aren't 25 hours long.
Yeah, that is... It becomes a thing of, would this have just been a better movie?
Well, it seems more like a TV show to me.
Yeah, or a TV show.
Mini
just
series.
Something... Would the story they wanted to tell be be better as a movie or a TV show.
Well, what I really enjoy about the story is this idea, and you can clearly see that the whole game is kind of based around this idea of you as the character, through means that you see as just, enacting revenge for half the game, and then it switches sides and you see the other side of that conflict, and you see what that evil, revenge-fueled hatred kind of does, and how it tears apart a group that is, in essence, kind of the same as what Ellie came from.
Yeah, that's totally not what happens, though. You know? Abby doesn't... The majority of her story has nothing to do with Ellie. And that whole revenge aspect. After Joel's death, it just becomes two separate stories, which then come back together.
Yeah, like... Honestly, trying to describe the structure is so bizarre.
It's really strange.
Because you have your introduction that ends with Joel dying. Then you have 3 days where you play as Ellie. And then it goes back in time and you play for 3 days as Abby.
Yeah.
For the same 3 days.
I think it would have worked a lot more if Abby didn't have flashbacks within her own days. I think if they emphasize the sort of remorse and regret of doing what she did to Joel, not just because she killed someone, but because of the way she did it, would have made you empathize with her more. They allude to the fact that the other characters that you're introduced to, being Lev and her, and his older sister, They allude to her saving them, as she needs to redeem herself.
But do you think, going back to Joel's death scene for a minute, because I'd forgotten to bring this up, do you think it would have been more effective if the death scene wasn't as excruciating as it is? Or do you think it needs to be that extreme for the story to even work in the first place?
I think it could have been that extreme if they emphasized Abby sort of learning that she shouldn't have done it like that. Maybe she should have just gone and shot him or not tried to at all.
Mm-hmm.
But when I came to the end, it didn't feel like she regretted it at all. And when she's like...
Yeah, true.
When it comes to Ellie's final confrontation with her, she's not like, look at where I am because of what I did.
Mm-hmm. I think, on paper, I really don't have an issue with a lot of this story. I don't mind the idea of this cyclical revenge thing. However, I just don't think the drama between Ellie and Joel was fully explored. And yeah, that uphill battle of just trying to get you to connect with Abby.
Yeah.
It just, especially with how bad her first day is, it really took me I really fell onto the gameplay at that point. Once I started playing as Abby, I was like, well, I'm not really into this story, but I'm just kind of enjoying the gameplay loop of this at the moment, so I'm going to keep playing. I paid for this. I want to see how it all comes together. Mm-hmm. And there was a point during the second or third day as Abby where I was kind of getting more into it because they explored a bit more of the world building.
Yeah, that was a really good idea. But also, I think I already said, but it's the flashback stuff that sort of kills it for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I wanted to see out of Joel and Ellie, but the beats were hit in the game. And when you get them, I guess my problem with it is that the way they come across isn't in an emotionally satisfying way because you already know he's dead. For some, that might be like a nice kind of irony. I don't know.
That's something I disagree with because he needs to be dead so at the end of the game, Ellie essentially forgives Abby and stops.
Mm-hmm.
And then it shows you the scene where she says, I'm gonna try to forgive you to Joel. So after learning that, the whole story is about Ellie forgiving Joel for the decision he made without Ellie. getting a say in the matter.
Yeah.
Which to me, that's the arc. It's like a smart way of doing the arc I wanted to get from this game. Of that revelation of Ellie, learning the truth, and then where does she go from there? And this game is that story.
Yeah.
It's her forgiving Joel. He did need to be dead, in my opinion, for that beat to be successful.
Because a lot of people are saying, oh, if only we'd gotten the flashbacks at the beginning, then you'd have more context and emotional kind of investment.
Again, I totally disagree with that.
Yeah, I can't decide because either way seems kind of clunky to me.
No, because the other option would have been, I suppose you could have shown that at the beginning, like have the whole party scene at the beginning, and then show it again at the end. Because like you said, it's been 25, 30 hours since you've seen it. You need to be refreshed.
It's such a unique thing.
Yeah, and in that regard, I quite like it.
Yeah, because that's what I've been struggling with is most stories aren't like 25 hours long in this way. And
No.
I don't think you are expected to play it in one chunk either.
No, definitely not.
Whereas like a movie, you are kind of more expected to.
Yeah,
but for a TV show, you watch it in hour-long chunks. So
I think that's why the storytelling is... Just baseline storytelling, people are giving it shit for its pacing, but it's actually quite smart the way they've done it.
in a way.
Because
the pacing is also kind of fucked though.
No, I think I'm expressing myself wrong. The pacing is bad, but the storytelling is good.
Storytelling, specify what you mean by storytelling. Do you mean like the cutscenes? Do you mean the environmental
Just
storytelling?
when they choose to give you certain information. Like my point with Ellie giving her thing about the forgiving Joel.
Yeah.
If you had that at the beginning, it would be a throwaway line. I mean, it
wouldn't have as much investment because...
No.
Yeah,
It gives you the information when you need it, as opposed to when it happened.
Well, yeah, I went on such a journey with this game.
Yeah.
Because you play it for a bit, Joel dies, and you're kind of like bummed out. And you just keep going. And it does win you over in ways and lose you in other ways. And then, like, when I thought the Joel and Ellie thing was just done, they give you like a couple moments here and there, and by that final cutscene, I was kind of like, "What is it that I don't like about a lot of this?"
Yeah.
But then I go back and I'm like, "Oh God, I really wouldn't want to play that bit again. I don't want
Honestly,
this interaction."
I might have to play the whole game again to
I was thinking that.
truly refine what I do and don't like. But a lot of it will come down to, it's like a slamming of the brakes when you change to Abby.
Yeah.
Like you've
Yeah,
really
it feels
built
like a
up to
different
this
game.
point.
Yeah.
It's like the end of season 1. Now you're going into season 2.
That's a good way of putting it, actually. It is like 2 seasons of a TV show.
Yeah, for sure. And
so why are we not okay with that here, but say like Red Dead Redemption, which is, 80 hours long?
Red Dead Redemption is a proper open world. This game is linear.
Yeah.
I think it just comes down to that. If this game was like a true open world, I think the story would have come across way better.
Why is that?
Because with an open world game, a well-designed one like Red Dead, I mean, disagree with me, whatever. That's my opinion, bro. Those games inherently have ups and downs, like moments of like adrenaline and stuff happening just all the time, and then there's you just exploring the world and whatnot. This game, it goes like combat, slow bit, combat.
Right. But you also have structural things like early on in the game there's a fairly lengthy segment where it is a kind of semi-open world section with Ellie and Dina.
Yeah.
But that's the only time in the game there's an open world kind of sequence or segment. and everything from after that is linear. Do you think that was like a pacing thing, them trying to establish this new relationship with Dina? And
Yeah, I think a big part of that is just trying to make you like Dina. Because she's one of the most vital characters in the story.
yeah, she is.
Which I don't really have a problem with, to be honest.
Well, what about Ellie? We've talked about Joel.
Yeah.
Ellie and Abby are basically the main characters.
This is Ellie's story. Like, absolutely 100%.
But if it's Ellie's story, you don't play as her for half the game.
Yeah, it's more like a third of the game. You don't play as Ellie.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that's probably more fair.
What I was fearing with the game, because I'd heard some spoilers and not, because I'd heard Ellie dies.
Yeah, that's what I'd heard too. I thought she
So
died.
I was really fearing that the game would just end with you playing as Abby, and that'd be that.
Ah, okay.
But when it goes back to Ellie, that made so much of it so much better for me.
Right.
Because that starting as a character and then finishing as that character,
Mm-hmm.
that makes it their story to me.
Yeah, I was much more into it the second time you became Ellie.
Yeah, definitely.
For that last section, I was really like kind of motivated to go through because I understand what it was going for by then.
Mm-hmm.
But that section where you are playing as Abby, like I really had to push to get through that first day because it really felt like it was kind of falling apart for me.
Yeah, it felt like the beginning of a new game. It's really bizarre.
But while the other major story thread is just kind of put on the board and you don't get payoff for it for countless hours.
Yeah.
So do you like her overall arc then?
Abby's, it depends how much of...
Ellie's.
Oh, Ellie's, yeah, absolutely.
So how do you grapple with this then? And this bothered me in the story. Her entire motivation is this revenge to kill Abby for what she did to Joel. But in doing so, you go on a murderous rampage of the likes of which have never been seen. You go across how many states, murdering how many hundreds of people, which are established and clarified as being just as innocent as Ellie. Is that part of what they were going for? Do you think that's an oversight with like her whole thing of killing hundreds of fucking people that are all like screaming each other's names while you're throwing, Molotovs on them and they're burning alive, and then is this fucking cringe pseudo narrative dissonance thing, or do you think it is actually part of the story?
I think they gave more thought to it than on the surface level you would give it credit for. The fact that when you're playing as Abby, who is one of these people, then starts killing them as well.
Wait, so when you're Abby,
you kill wolves.
Yeah, it's like a moment in the story.
Yeah. The fact that you do that as Abby justifies you doing it as Ellie way more. Like the fact
But I didn't like the moment when you start doing it as Abby either.
It's quite abrupt, but the choice makes total sense. Like,
yeah, you understand why she does it. It's just like, it's the gameplay thing of like, man, I got to kill these people who used to be my
yeah. They're never really. They do a lot to establish the wolves as not very good people.
Yeah,
and they overthrew the local government to become a government just as bad, maybe worse, than the previous ones. So I mean, what does annoy me is that Abby and her crew are free thinkers, and they're real people with, like, they're with the wolves, but they don't agree 100% with everything they do. Every soldier, every enemy you come across in the game, you just have to assume is a devout wolf.
Right.
So it takes a lot of that complexity they added with the characters shouting each other's names and just makes them into bad guy.
Yeah, that's what's confusing about it, because they want you to empathize with the people you're killing, with these bits of
but
dialogue.
at the same time, they make them so evil that
Mhm.
they will kill an unarmed child
Yeah.
for practically no reason.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still not sure how I feel about that. With
Yeah,
Ellie.
it's just video game shit. Like, it's the stuff that's left over from games that hasn't been ironed out yet.
Because, like, would it even be stronger if it was more like a show or a movie? So you didn't have countless hours of her just slaughtering people, slitting their throats, them
Yeah.
screaming in pain, fucking tearing them apart.
That is something I want to briefly say about the gameplay. Why the fuck is there still one animation per character you play as for a stealth kill?
That is weird.
You can't have two? They do have two for Ellie, but once you get the upgrade, then you're stuck to that one other animation. Fucking come on, dude. Like,
It is weird for a game that is visually so impressive with its animations.
so
and
impressive, and so it really wants you to fucking use stealth.
stuff.
Just put some adjustments in there, please. Because I played the first game a lot, to the point where I did it on the hardest difficulty. That last level in the Firefly base,
Mhm.
I didn't kill anyone.
Really?
The only person I killed is the one it forces you to kill, Abby's dad.
Abby's dad.
And I played that game a shit ton, and that game had the same problem. This one fucking animation. It's a nitpick, but fuck me, it really pisses me off.
So yeah, Ellie is established as being in a relationship with this new character, Dina.
Yep.
Which, as you said, is an essential story beat, because my favorite part of her story is after you're done playing with Abby, and they get their corny little happy ending.
Yeah. Although that scene annoyed me. For
Which one?
Just when Ellie keeps just going and, like, she's got this baby and she keeps just fucking with Dina. I don't know, like, something about it just felt kind of awkward.
It definitely felt awkward, and I was rolling my eyes at, like, there's a scene in that open world section where they're, it might have been there, I can't remember, but where they're like,
Yeah, I think
what's your dream? What's your dream, Dina? Oh, I want to live on the farm and...
No, they come across a bunch of money and
That's
they
right,
say,
yeah, they're in a
what would
bank
you
or
do
something.
if we were in the old world? What would you buy
That's
with all
right.
this money? Oh, I'd buy a farmhouse.
So that might actually be a missable bit of dialogue if it's in one of the side things.
It might be the vital,
Oh, right.
like,
Yeah, well, either way.
yeah,
They get their happy ending, but
with all their sheeps.
then the game doesn't end, of course, because Tommy gets some intel on where Abby is, so Ellie decides that she has to end it. She has to fucking end it because she can't rest otherwise.
Yeah, she's constantly getting, like, panic attacks and nightmares and can't sleep.
So she decides to travel across the country, maybe one last time, and has a interaction with Abby where she ultimately decides not to take revenge.
Yeah, and that is something a lot of people have issues with.
I mean, she has to do it because that's the arc. That's the story. If you kill her, if you killed her, I mean, it would feel even more.
It would feel so vapid.
Yeah, what would be the message? Just revenge is bad and everything.
Then you'd play as Lev getting revenge.
Yeah, I guess the story has to, the cycle has to end.
Yeah.
Unless you really did want to have this hopeless, like, nothing matters in this world because everything is just fucking hopeless anger.
Yeah.
But do you think it's quite reductionist to say that the message of the story is just revenge bad?
Yeah, it definitely is. Because it's way more personal than that. And I believe it is what I said earlier. The story is Ellie forgiving Joel.
Yeah.
Ellie forgiving her dad for letting her live, or for not giving her the choice
Yeah.
of...
Yeah. No, that's a good point. However, though, I think it is just an execution thing, because all this stuff we're describing on paper I do enjoy. But then we get into the pregnancy stuff and the kind of silliness of the love triangle type stuff. That
Yeah, right at the beginning.
it just doesn't feel like it's really fleshed out or developed.
No.
Who's the new character? Jesse. Jesse's kind of in the love triangle. Well, it's not really a love triangle because.
Well, they sort of imply it is. At the end of the first day, there's a scene where Ellie is helping Jesse back into the theatre they're staying in. And the way the scene is set up, Dina immediately rushes to Jesse and sort of helps him. And Ellie backs off, and it looks like she's jealous.
Yeah.
Feeling like left out.
Yeah, so it is a love triangle.
And at this point, she knows that he is the father of her baby.
Yeah. And they really wanted to do this echo thing with Ellie and Abby. So they each have a pregnant member of their group, you know? They each have the like father who gets taken out by the other one.
Yeah.
And
something that annoys me about that duality. So, I mean, it had me rolling my eyes when both characters were revealed to be pregnant on each side, blah, blah, blah. But they really set up one of the pregnant woman on Abby's side. Is it
Lev?
No, that's Mel. Lev is the trans boy.
Oh, yeah, sorry, my apologies.
Mel is the pregnant woman who is a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Like, she's a piece of shit. In my opinion, I do not like that character. She's just hostile and petty because Abby used to be with Owen. And, yeah, they get back together and whatever, but I don't know, she just seems like she's always had a problem with Abby. So I felt bad as Ellie killing her, and then they almost go out of their way to make you, the player, not give a shit that Ellie killed this pregnant woman.
Yeah,
like the only reason you feel bad for that character is because she was pregnant.
Yeah.
And I think that is cheap. And
well, they do that a few times though. With the cheapness, like
for sure,
like the character of Jesse, for example.
Yeah,
he only really exists so he can impregnate Dina.
Yeah,
because his character doesn't really have any, arc or journey because he just gets taken out in the we're brutal, Last of Us.
And this is something where the gameplay actually really harmed the story for me. Was I ended up really not liking Jesse. And almost the same with Dina, because whenever I was paired with them in gameplay moments, they were fucking annoying.
I was actually much more annoyed by the AI in this game than the first one.
Yeah, definitely.
Because they kept messing up my stealth.
Yeah.
They kept standing in places I wanted to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It really pissed me off. So then I was just like, Jesse, fuck off. And then he suddenly gets shot in the head. And I was like, oh, okay.
Well, I was more annoyed about Jesse because he was one of the newer characters I was actually quite enjoying and I wanted to see a bit more of.
Yeah, like I was cool with him as a character, but he's one of the characters you probably spend the most time with as Ellie.
Do you?
In gameplay.
I suppose, yeah.
In stealth bits. And because I played the whole game on hard, so I was really quite anal about the way I played the game, trying to be stealthy and reserve all my resources. And time and time again, he fucking pissed me off. And Dina, for some reason, when I was with Dina, maybe because you mostly do like zombie stuff with Dina, it wasn't really an issue. But that one fucking dude, it's like they did it on purpose. That's what it felt like, because when you're with Lev as Abby, no problems.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like I clashed with each time there was an AI.
I never did with Lev. And that character is fine in my books. But Jesse, man, they need to do some fucking work on their AI.
Yeah,
Naughty Dog.
I don't remember it being
AI.
as big an issue in the first game.
And it was an issue they fixed in Uncharted 4. Because if you take cover at a place, you sort of take cover on them or next to them.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
But they just fucked it with this, and it really pissed me off. Sorry for that.
No, it's fine. How do you feel about Dina?
I quite like Dina.
She was an interesting character.
Yeah.
Her purpose was more to be Ellie's kind of end goal. She saw her life with her and wanted to stay with her, so at the end, when she kind of loses her, it has more weight behind it. It's definitely a unique relationship that I haven't seen in like a game before.
No, definitely not. And I think the two characters and actors had a lot of chemistry.
I have no problems with any of the performances, to be honest.
No.
There is some dialogue I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't have any like specific examples because there's just so much to talk about with this game. I wasn't taking notes while playing.
There are definitely moments more early on than anything, but it really had me rolling my eyes.
Yeah, there's some real corny shit in there.
Yeah.
But I feel like unless you're like a true master at writing relationships, it's just they're still learning, I guess, as writers and all that shit.
I just think having that whole love triangle stuff at the start, that affects the pacing to me. Because whereas Ellie, I feel her character in those early moments should really be determined, and all she is really thinking about is revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Because the wound is still fresh, but then you've got that scene at the end of the first day. I'm pretty sure, where she's like jealous. It just feels weird.
Yeah.
Like how much is this character determined?
And you have all of the guitar stuff, which you mentioned, which I suppose is supposed to be like Joel kind of living on through Ellie.
Yeah,
and
it's
her
like their
connection with him.
main connection.
Yeah, which is what makes her fingers being bitten off at the end, like this like final middle finger to her revenge and highlighting why it was a bad thing to do. Yeah, because Dina wasn't in it quite as much as I was expecting, to be honest.
No.
They kind of get her out of the picture.
Yeah, she
quickly.
falls pregnant. Well, she's pregnant basically the whole game. She is pregnant the whole game. And because of that, she's just put on the back seat.
Yeah, I didn't really have any issues with her. I thought she was fine.
Yeah.
She fulfilled her story role fairly well for what she needed to.
Yeah, I was never like annoyed when she showed up in a scene or anything, by any means.
I was kind of torn on at first. I wasn't really connecting with it that much. I guess I was expecting a bit more instant conflict with them that wasn't like a love triangle or something quite like that.
I feel like they could have done something more interesting.
There's a certain intensity about the first game where your mission feels really important.
Yeah.
Which just isn't in the second game as much because it is much more personal. Whereas, they go the more typical, we have a cure for the virus type shit in the first game, which just is not really a concern in the second one. They kind of put their foot down, like there ain't much hope for that kind of shit, to be honest. You kind of screwed the pooch there on that. But
what did you think of Tommy, Joel's brother?
I quite like what they did with Tommy, because he was honestly one of the things that was keeping me going, because he was like a connection to the first game. Yeah, someone I already had a bit of investment in.
There's a really good scene in the first game between Tommy and Joel, where Tommy sort of reveals to the player that Joel kept Tommy and both of them alive basically by just doing the most horrendous shit. You don't know what, but Joel says, "I kept us alive," and Tommy literally says, "Wasn't worth it." Like it was that fucked up.
But that's what makes Joel such an interesting character.
Yeah,
is it someone who is just so lost and just has he's basically just like ape brain, like nothing matters apart from staying alive. As long as I've got food and shelter.
The only things that matter are the things that matter to me.
Yeah,
he
was
Tommy.
Kind of sucked into the horrendousness of the universe that he found.
I think that's why he's such a good like crucible as a protagonist.
Yeah, but also what is extremely crucial about Joel and the reason so many people connected to him is that you don't see the horrendous shit he did, because if the game If the first 6 hours of The Last of Us were you playing as Joel and Tommy, and you were like stopping cars and slaughtering everyone in it and looting them and everything,
And eating them.
then it would be kind of the same issue this game has, where then if in the like latter part of the game you tried to make him come across as more empathetic, just in like a storytelling way, when you just go from one hyper extreme to the other, it's a risky maneuver and it doesn't always pay off.
Yeah, for sure. But going back to Tommy, I wish he had connected with Ellie more in this game. Maybe even if the relationship was mostly like the one they focused on was those two.
That could have been really interesting, yeah.
Because I mean that's a relationship you never see. Is like an uncle and a niece or nephew.
Yeah, true.
Maybe I'm
and
wrong.
they already have that link being Joel and the same goal that binds them.
For sure.
Whereas Dina doesn't.
Yeah,
you don't know.
I would have been fine
backstory.
with Dina being the person that you go with at the start. Then she's pregnant. I don't think Jesse needed to be in it.
Well, yeah.
The only reason he was in it was to be killed.
Well, no, it was to be the semen provider.
Yeah, the semen
baby.
provider, but he needed to die so that Ellie could be the partner that raises the child.
Yeah.
And
Otherwise, he'd have like some kind of right to the baby.
yeah,
And you couldn't have the house.
yeah, exactly. So they were like,
that's what I mean about clunky
we need
elements.
the semen, kill the guy, whatever.
Yeah, because he doesn't even get anything that like characterful behind him. You know,
no,
Like, he doesn't have any like emotional beat particularly. He's just kind of
he's
like,
just Ellie's friend, and
he's just a bit of a mate.
yeah, that's
a
it.
matehead, yeah.
So I think he's an example of a character that was just used
Used and abused. Yeah.
Whereas I think if you met Tommy at the point you meet Jesse, because I don't know about you, but Tommy was really fucking being bigged up in this game as being just the most badass motherfucker.
Which I might have read it wrong or something, but I thought they made a point at first where Ellie's the one who's really keen about revenge and Tommy's kind of shoots it down.
I think partly that's because he doesn't want her to put herself in danger.
But they say something about him, like his wife speaking through him, and that Ellie's like,
yeah,
that's not what you really think, is it? That's your wife speaking.
Because
you want revenge.
Yeah. But I think more than anything, he knows what like Joel sacrificed to keep Ellie alive. He doesn't want Ellie to go and die for his sake.
But then by the end, he's the one convincing her to finish the job.
Yeah, because of what happened to him. So he sort of becomes a selfish character. But yeah, like I was saying, he's really bigged up to be a badass. You're seeing sort of what he's done to people as you're going through the world.
Yeah.
To get as much information as he can. I think he was underutilized.
Yeah, I do as well, because I kept thinking about some way the story could have been this character you're following being Tommy, this revenge-fueled maniac. If it could have been Joel in some way, I don't know.
Yeah. As much as I would have liked to see that,
this is the problem though. Whenever you make a suggestion that clearly is not as well thought through as the plot they've spent 5+ years laying out, it's really hard to spin it without restructuring the entire thing.
We wanted to see what happens as a result of Joel's choice between Ellie and Joel, and what we got in the end was Joel dies because of that choice. And then you play as Ellie dealing with that choice. I think if Joel had survived, the whole story would have been just completely different.
Yeah.
And
I feel like you still could have told a satisfying revenge story with the chess pieces that were in play already. Because what starts to get really muddy for me is when you get to Abby, and in order for them to get you to empathize with her, they've got to do these like really cheap little writing tricks, like we mentioned day one for her, where they have to really quickly establish this doctor guy as the fucking most chill, nice, awesome father, the best one you've ever seen. He saves zebras. He collects coins. He's just the most...
That scene was the most eye roll I've ever experienced.
Yeah,
when you come around the corner and there's a fucking zebra stuck in... Like, I know they've established that there's the zoo animals and stuff, but to have that exact character moments before he's going to save the world, doing a horrible choice that he's got to do for the greater good, he saves a fucking zebra. A zebra that has just given birth, continuing with the pregnancy.
Super
theme.
clumsy.
It's like... Give the player some credit. You know, they don't need to be drip fed this fucking like...
Well, it's clearly the writers being very aware that they've got a lot of work to do to make you invested in that side of the story.
Yeah.
Which to me just reads like, well, come on, guys.
The thing is, you know from the first Last of Us that Joel and Ellie... Like, Joel wasn't the greatest, like, father figure to Ellie in any respect. But they still had, like, a connection. I don't think they needed to go to the lengths they did with that zebra scene. And that's a scene I would...
But then without it, people would be complaining that you just have nothing with that guy. You needed something. You needed to humanize him in some way, but it is so rushed. They had to get through it so he could die, and then it'd be sad for Abby.
Yeah. It's just, again, like you said, clumsy.
So how about this idea of this game's story being part 3, and part 2 was establishing Abby in some sense, keeping it more of a mystery, exploring that through line, that thread with Joel and Ellie a bit more. I mean, the possibilities are endless. I mean, there aren't that many restrictions on the universe, aside from just the tiredness of the zombie shit. Because I was feeling that a bit during this game. You know, like just the warring factions in the zombie apocalypse world. Like, fucking hell, dude. We've seen this shit a lot of times.
Yeah,
at this point. So I don't know how much of that plays into it. Because The Last of Us 1 was a surprise. This one had expectations.
Yeah, and The Last of Us 1 sort of came out when I feel like The Walking Dead was still quite popular. Yeah. And talked about. And then this one has come out and nobody gives a shit about that sort of thing anymore. Like they've all moved on to Battle Royales. Like maybe if you had Ellie, Dina and Jesse fucking skydiving in.
Yeah, jumping out the battle bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that would have worked better, but it's not for me to say.
So let's talk about Abby then. We've already started.
Yeah.
We've already fucking started.
Let's talk about Abby.
Abby. So, first off, she's not trans, which I was led to believe from all of the leaks and everything.
Yeah.
Which I guess for some people is bad, if that was true. I don't know why that really matters that much.
No, I really
because that was what was weird, was that they were like a certain subsect of people were upset that there was a trans character.
Yeah, a lot of people are just upset that she is strong.
Yeah, and I got to admit, I was kind of confused at first with the Abby's like insane arms.
Yeah,
but they kind of explain it with this like gym facility that they have at the Wolf base, and
yeah, I'm more intrigued as to how they have like an army. It seems to be just the religious group. They've got an army of just like superhumans, these fucking giant people that can be shot in the head multiple times and survive.
Yeah.
Like, where the fuck do they come from?
Yeah.
Who gives a shit about Abby being ripped?
But one detail with the Abby thing that I really did like was at the end of the game, she's kind of captured in that evil group for a few months. So when in that final conflict with her and Ellie, her arms have gone down.
Her whole body, she's like tiny.
Yeah.
In that scene.
So the muscle mass is obviously.
She's clearly still like, she knows how to fight, but it makes Ellie's victory over her feel all the more just disgusting as well.
Yeah, it's like pathetic at that point, because she's been like a slave for months. It's like, how much more?
They do establish that Ellie's been like stabbed, so she's obviously not
100% either.
But yeah, I agree. That's a really good detail. Abby obviously comes across Lev, and
That's kind of the meat of the Abby
his-
story, is the conflict between the wolves and the, what they call the Seraphites?
or Scars.
Scars, yeah.
So
Yeah.
Ellie meets Lev, a trans boy, which you discover throughout.
So Abby isn't trans, but there is a trans character.
Yeah, and I actually read an article about how Lev is a poorly written trans character.
Right. For what was their reasoning?
Apparently because Lev's purpose in the story is for straight people, like straight cisgendered people, to sort of like it's to make them feel good about themselves,
Like virtue signaling.
I guess.
I don't know about that. I feel like it was much more subtle. It felt more to me kind of like Bill's story from the first game.
Yeah, it was slightly more heavy-handed because Lev just had a bigger part in the story than
Yeah.
Bill, which like absolutely fine.
But to me, it made sense that that character was kind of ostracized for being trans, given the context of them being in this crazy like religious cult.
Yeah. An aspect I really liked about it as well was that in that cult, they had this really defined thing of the men all had shaved heads, the women grew their hair long.
Yeah.
So that having that defined thing really made it hard for Lev to like...
Yeah.
I feel like I'm one of them though, so I'm going to shave my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. But I guess for me, where the drive of the kind of narrative was ground to a halt in that section for me was because they do explore this kind of Seraphite Scar angle with Nev's sister getting smacked with the hammer on the arm and everything.
A scene that I've really fucking... it was so like over the top violent.
With her, how red her arm got and stuff, it all seemed like really well researched and stuff, like actual
compartment syndrome where it's got to be cut off. Man,
it's all very shocking.
Yeah, but that kind of shit is one of the reasons I fell in love with the first game. Like,
more just the unflinching violence.
Yeah, I don't
remember anything like that in the first game though. To that degree, and I don't know if it's just because like graphics and everything is so much more detailed now.
I'm sure I could think of something.
Because The Last of Us 1 to me, and this is what I was trying to explain, I guess earlier when I just think they feel very different. The Last of Us 1 was like this really kind of brisk, segmented story with the framing of the seasons, and each season kind of had its own mini story within it. Yeah. With each where you had.
The Last of Us 1 story is hands down so much more solid, and
it's much tighter.
Yeah, and it feels more subtle, like the way you meet those brothers, and they're sort of like a reflection of Joel and Ellie. But it's not too heavy-handed to the point where it is in The Last of Us 2 when Abby and Ellie are mirror image characters. They are practically the same.
Yeah, because like each the Bill segment is like a lot of fun. The winter section is like such an awesome moment from the first game, such a surprise that feels really earned, and like the payoff of the growth of Ellie throughout the game. And I was finding like, because there is so much gameplay, so much combat in The Last of Us Part 2, I felt I was lacking that connection with like a character or a group of characters. Whenever someone showed up, I was like, well, finally we're going to get some kind of like dynamic or explore interaction, you know, instead of just, hours of brutality.
Yeah, I understand that, but again, the friendly AI thing made me dread every time
that is a shame.
I came across another character.
That is a huge shame. Because that to me was like what the kind of banter and you really saw this really clear growth in the first game.
Yeah.
Ellie is like this really introverted, doesn't like Joel at all at the beginning.
Yeah.
And her body language changes across the game,
Mhm.
and she's really open and different by the end. Whereas the changes are more subtle. And a lot of characters don't get a chance to go through changes.
Yeah.
It's like Jesse's just offed, Joel is offed. Tommy goes through a pretty extreme change.
Yeah, but he's barely even looked at in the story. Like, I really think he should have been more of a major role.
I guess it's all about Ellie and Abby.
Yeah. That's what they wanted.
What did you think of Abby's section where there's kind of like the war going on with the wolves versus the Scars? Where the wolves invade the island.
Purely because of gameplay, I thought it was so cool.
The presentation of it was like super exciting.
Yeah, and you go on the horse for a bit. I'm glad they had you go on a horse again, so it wasn't just like a throwaway.
Throwaway section.
And this time you can like shoot when on the horse. It like everything just fucking ramps up to 11. It's I understand why stuff like that would piss people off about this game. Nobody's complaining about that stuff though, but like there's not really any of that in the first game.
Like big set piece moments.
Yeah, the most extreme thing I can remember happening is you get like tangled up by your foot as Joel, and you're upside down.
You're forgetting a few. There was the whole sequence with the like tank, well not the tank, the armoured vehicle.
But I mean, that's you just sprinting, away from the vehicle.
Yeah, that's what a lot of the sequences are in this game.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like a village on fire and there's two
The scope
factions.
is much smaller.
Yeah, and that was also something I liked about The Last of Us 1. With this, I wouldn't, from an outside perspective, agree with the decision to have like a war going on. But they make it feel suitably small scale, like it's just happening on this tiny island.
I really liked the approach, how Abby was kind of a lone wolf. She wasn't a foot soldier, so she was kind of tangentially connected to the war that was going on. So you saw the like charge from a distance. You saw the conflict kind of from a distance, and you're going through. You just happen to be going through it as it's going on.
Yeah, something I don't fully understand though is after the first conflict with the wolves is how suddenly every wolf knows that Abby is a villain.
Well, yeah, that's another aspect of the clumsiness. I mean, like there had to be that turn where she started killing wolves.
Yeah,
at that moment where it's kind of going back to that grayness theme, where who really is the good guy here? They're both as flawed as each other. They both have their own beliefs, and certain parts make sense.
I feel like they could have just put in a throwaway line though about them that the wolves would have shot at Lev on sight.
Yeah,
So
there are definitely
she needed
things they could have
protect.
cleared up with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, one thing that really robbed a lot of the kind of motivational suspense was like most of this. Is it the second day? Is you just trying to get to like a hospital facility to get medical equipment
for Lev's sister.
For Lev's sister, who's like a brand new character who barely gets much time or development, and they're already expecting you to be invested in Abby or care about Abby and her journey. And then on top of that, the whole hook of that segment is you just going to a hospital to get medical equipment for a character you don't really give a shit about.
Yeah,
and I was imagining like in the first game, the whole section where Joel falls on that spike.
Yeah.
And there's like such a like sense of urgency when you're playing as Ellie. Like you really want to like protect him and get back to him because they've spent so much time building him up and getting you invested in him. And there are none of the new characters that they establish. I really can't say I'd give a shit if they were offed particularly.
Yeah, I think the only
like
one
Jesse,
for me would have been Lev. Because that is the character you spend the most time with, and like you learn little things about him, like he likes sharks, scared of water. It's like all.
Yeah. I wasn't connecting with the new characters as much. I liked all the set pieces, and I really liked the old like ground zero kind of hospital thing where it's like all the really old
that was
infected.
extremely cool.
Because I really wasn't expecting them to do any kind of world building-y stuff. So when I was getting that, I was like, oh, like this is like what I'm kind of into. Like, what actually am I going to see? How old the old fungus is going to look and all this.
Yeah,
I liked that idea.
yeah.
But again, like I just feel like I would have been way more invested if I was Ellie or you know, a character I wanted to be playing as.
Yeah. I do appreciate the whole story with Lev being that Abby knows that she's not a very good person, and it's like the game knows that you don't like her.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to show her doing a good thing to compensate, and the character herself feels like she needs to compensate. So when ordinarily she'd hate these two scars that she came across and not give a shit about whether they lived or died, which I'm pretty sure she says at one point, like, I might just leave you because you're fucking nothing to me.
Yeah.
And then she comes to this conclusion that she needs to help these two. I think.
So do you think they
for
did
me, it worked just about enough. Like, it just scraped by for me to be okay with Abby, you know, and not just hate her guts for the entirety of it.
Yeah, for me it wasn't. God, I can't stand this character Abby. For me, it was just the emotional investment's gone. Like,
yeah,
I'm.
right.
I actually removed from the game that Abby's storyline is really cool to me. This whole Nev thing and these factions, the Whistlers and the Wolves and all that. I like all of that. As its own standalone game, I'd probably have really enjoyed it, like a spin-off in the Last of Us universe type thing.
Yeah.
But it's part 2, you know? And the game only works with that second half because the whole sections where you're playing as Ellie and you're like tracking the whole set pieces where you're like chasing down people you later kind of get context as to who they are, like the Vita woman and, you know, all parts of the crew.
I found a bunch of that was kind of pointless.
Yeah, it didn't have
one,
any emotional resonance. Like,
no, there's a really good part from Ellie's perspective when you're smacking this woman with a metal pole, and it clearly has an effect on her. Even though when I was playing, I smacked so many people around the face with a fucking metal pole that she should be pretty used to it by now.
Like, I was so apathetic towards every character at a certain point where I was like, well, you're all just monsters. You know, so you choosing to stop being a monster at this point, it's like, well, it's like the rules are in such a different universe to what we can even understand, you know, like assigning any morality at this point, it seems almost pointless.
But I mean, the pointless aspect to me was that I think her name is Nora Freeze. The girl you smack around the face, she's in like one scene when you're Abby. So, like, she helps Abby out, and it's like, well...
It's just such an ambitious idea that they are kind of forced to skip over and just get to story beats so the whole thing as a whole can work, but taken individually, it's incredibly flawed. Like, some of the days I think are really fun, really solid.
I think the peak of the whole game is, from memory, day 2 as Ellie. That's when I was playing the game. It reached like midnight and I was just, I can't stop. This shit is fucking grabbing me.
Remind me what happens on day 2.
I believe that is when you go to the hospital as Ellie.
Right.
And you do all that shit.
Yeah.
I think. I can't remember, but I remember thinking in my head once I finished day 2, that's the best part of the game so far. I'll note down when.
But then day 2 is also quite good as Abby.
Yeah, I think day 2 of both stories might be the best, but also day 3 as Abby is really good. The only thing that day 3 as Ellie isn't great because of the way it ends. It ends and then you go back to day 1, and that is so unsatisfying.
Yeah, the jump to the different character Because when they do that in the first game, it is kind of a genuine cool surprise. And at the same time...
It leaves you asking so many questions like, is Joel alive?
Yeah. And you kind of have slightly different mechanics. The upgrade tree seemingly is reset and everything.
Yeah.
But then, once you find out Joel's alive, and you eventually go back to playing as him. Whereas they've got to balance this thing where you've got 2 different characters with 2 different upgrade trees. And the way they balance it is just kind of strange. There's a weird feeling to feel like you're starting a game again halfway through. And you've got, here you go, find the papers and unlock all the new upgrade trees again and start collecting materials
Yeah, that's something that's always annoyed me, because, like, surely you can assume, like, Abby looks like she knows what the fuck she's doing, but all she has is, like, a pistol, a long gun, like a rifle, and she hasn't got any upgrades. Like, surely you could have some algorithm that looks at what upgrades you got as Ellie and give you some as Abby, so it feels like you're not starting anew.
Yeah.
Just give her something.
Because that's part of the fun of playing a game that has upgrades, is that you feel like you're building a character.
Yeah.
Taking that away.
Yeah, it's inherently just kind of annoying.
Yeah, and it takes away that feeling of like a building kind of progress.
Yeah.
It just resets back to the beginning. I don't know what else they could have really done about that, to be honest.
No, I don't know. So
what's your favourite story moment then? Yeah, just what pops into your head when I say what's your favourite moment?
After Ellie's lost her fingers, she plays the guitar, and then the cutscene that follows.
Yeah. That was the only point in the game where it got a kind of earned emotional response out of me.
Yeah. But I did have other emotional responses. I really like the spaceship scene.
Yeah, that was the other one.
Yeah, that one definitely had an emotional response.
I didn't get really any emotional response from when you play as Abby, but I didn't really. I was fine with playing it. I was fine with experiencing what they were doing with it. I just wasn't connecting with them as characters.
I thought the character Owen, Abby's ex-boyfriend, was a bit too nice. He seemed...
Yeah, they were doing that thing again.
Yeah, he seemed too good for that world.
They're trying to explore the greyness, but they take all the greyness out of Abby's story. With all these like
they
oversimplified
certain characters, so
caricature characters.
I know they say that Owen like shot a dude, perfectly like justified, because he felt bad for a child.
Mm-hmm.
It's like...
And then, he like runs off, and you find out there was like an altercation, and
yeah, because he basically did exactly what Abby then does.
Yeah. And there's the really graphic sex scene between him and Abby. Yeah. Which
I didn't really get it.
Well, I thought, because I'd heard there were so many pregnancy beats, I just assumed that was going to be like another pregnancy. So when
I was waiting for that.
I'm glad they didn't do that, but
it felt more like a thing they were doing for the drama, because he's got a baby on the way with someone else.
He's got a baby on the way, and it's just another love triangle.
Yeah,
and it makes it more dramatic. Yeah,
I thought they did a perfect job showing that those two characters have an affinity for one another without them having to fuck.
Yeah.
For Abby to have a meltdown scene when he dies.
Mm-hmm. So let's round off this thing with just answering some questions from Twitter to kind of just round this off. Because, I mean, I don't know, it could be really messy. Like it feels messy. The conversation feels super messy in this video, and it's super long. Like usually we're able to do this in 30-40 minutes, quite eloquently.
Is this an hour and a half or about 2 hours?
We've been recording for quite a while. I don't know how it's going to be when I edit it down. So there's obviously a bunch of stuff I can take out, but damn, it's really hard to talk about this game.
It is, but I feel like we've had a nice flow, Just sort of naturally gone from...
Yeah, so let's end on some questions then. Let's start with this one from @InternetDave, who says, Could it be considered a better game all round if it wasn't a sequel to the first game, which was regarded as excellent?
No.
The game doesn't work without the first game.
Yeah.
You have to have the investment in Joel for any of it to have any weight to begin with.
They do an alright job of like establishing everything that happened in the first game.
Well, they actually do that thing in the opening cutscene where they specifically show the scene where Joel kills the doctor.
Yeah, to make sure you
remember it and know that it's a bad thing. Yeah. Which I don't know if I would have even twinged on that if I didn't know that was a part of the story, that it was all linking back to the first game and that final event.
Yeah,
the leak thing really fucked it. Like, I don't know. I genuinely don't know what I'd think about this game without it.
I think, I'm sorry, but this is sort of going away from the question, but it's a point I kind of want to make. That when you kill that doctor in the first game, it doesn't feel like it's... They make it seem as though with the sequel that you have to kill him in the first game to set up this sequel.
Yeah.
But in the first game, it just felt organic. Like, you killed this guy because he was in your way.
Mm-hmm.
At first, it pissed me off because I was like, this is a video game. I should have the choice whether I kill this dude that's clearly no match for me, the strong fucking protagonist. But it felt more like a subtle comment in the first game, whereas in the sequel, it's like heavy-handed.
It's retconning at its finest. Like, the scene is not structured in a way that makes it's like obvious that this character is going to be important, or there's no build-up or establishment of it.
Exactly. If they'd have established that he has a daughter named Abby, then her existence in the story would sit way better with me. Even it's awkward no matter what.
This is what I really... It's a thing we see time and time again, where when a story is like... the first entry in something captures lightning in a bottle in a way, and it wasn't planned to have sequels. This universe wasn't fleshed out in a certain way. So when they do come to making sequels, because everything wasn't planned out, you can fall into these traps of going back and retconning all this shit and changing everything up, fucking up. People are really upset about the Joel decision. It seems to be condemning Joel in the first game, when the whole first game seemed to be about kind of justifying that decision at the end.
Yeah.
That was what made that game interesting to me, was this whole like morally grey area with that they totally make you understand why someone in his position would do the thing he does.
Yeah.
In my opinion,
but
anyway.
I don't think the sequel saying that Joel did bad things and did a bad thing doing what he did takes away from that. I don't think it does.
So I understand Ellie being upset with it, but I guess what made it work for me was that when Joel is talking about it, he specifically says, I would do it all again.
Yeah.
I would do everything the exact same way.
That cutscene at the end of the game honestly improves the whole story.
No, because
so much.
Before that cutscene, I was like, kind of like, whatever, this ending bit's a bit more like interesting to me. But that cutscene really did bring it much more full circle with that stuff, because you get the payoff. And because I thought in that moment they were going to like character assassinate him and be like, I'm so sorry, I wish I didn't do it, and do all this kind of shit.
Yeah.
But he doesn't. He stands by...
He doubles down.
Yeah, which is like a Joel thing to do, and it like makes... That really made sense to me.
Yeah, and he doesn't need to like explain everything to her. He just tells her the truth, and it's like...
Power Couch asks this: what were your expectations before going in, and your thoughts when a sequel in general was announced?
I was definitely cool with the sequel. I fucking loved the first game. I played it so much.
Really? I was in the camp where I was happy with The Last of Us just being a standalone.
I sort of hoped that it was going to be just a standalone thing. But when the sequel was announced, I knew at least I was going to get a game I would like to play. I was
I was confident it was going to be really good.
Yeah.
Then the leaks happened, and just the way everyone was talking about it and the way it was spun, it just seemed much more negative, and people were already writing it off and cancelling their pre-orders, and the pathetic review bombing stuff. Like, I think it's perfectly reasonable to not like the story of the game. I think that's completely legitimate.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to like what they gave you.
But in that same vein, it's totally legitimate to like it.
Oh,
like,
yeah, of course.
Don't shit on people.
It's not as cut and dry as it's been made out to be.
No, definitely not.
Because like if your reasoning for disliking the game is because maybe you bought it, you got to the Joel scene, then you stopped playing, I don't think that's as legitimate as someone like me who got to that scene, was upset by it, went through to the end, and when you're finished with that 25 hours, you are kind of just like, yeah, I didn't like this bit, really didn't like this bit, really enjoyed this section. Mm-hmm. It is more complicated as a whole because it is such a long 25, it is such a long experience. There is so much of it that is good. There is so much to enjoy about it. The bad aspects, I don't know. They don't bring it down that much for me. I feel like if I had to assign a number out of 10, I feel like I'm about a 7 at the moment.
Right.
Which is like, it's definitely above average for me, but there are a lot of things that bug me about it.
Yeah, I'd be at a strong 8. Yeah, because I mean, there are points of this game where I teetered on loving this game.
Yeah.
Mostly just because of like how fun I thought the game actually was.
Yeah, I found it quite addictive to play after a while. I was really getting into like the feel of it and the way the stealth worked and the upgrades and the loop. I thought that was found really fun because a lot of people were giving Naughty Dog shit for this article that was being spread around where I think Neil Druckmann was quoted as saying, "We don't use the word fun around The Office or whatever." But like, it's fun. It's really fun. The game is awesome to play.
And I don't know how into this sort of thing you are, but the notes and stuff.
Yeah, I when I was Ellie, I read most of them, but after a while, there was a point in the middle where I really wasn't sure how I was feeling about the game, and I even stopped playing it for a bit. So I didn't bother as
I found some notes, you'd like open them and there would be just like such a huge block of text.
I read a lot of them.
Yeah, I read most of them, and honestly, it's very rare that I would do that in a game. But the way they set up the environment that note is left in, and how you
the environmental storytelling is really cool.
Yeah, it's incredible, and that is a hook for me for sure. Sorry, what was the actual question?
Expectations before going in, your thoughts when a sequel in general was announced.
After the leaks and stuff, I did spoil it for myself, and I didn't expect to like this game. Because, like you said, everyone was saying it was shit. And maybe that's a reason I like it as much as I do. Because I went
Expectations make a huge difference.
Yeah, I went in probably with lower expectations than you, and came out liking it way more than you.
Yeah.
So
I really want to just leave it for a few months.
Yeah.
And then maybe when the PS5 comes out or something, play it on there, play it with a
I definitely
better frame rate.
If I am able to pick up a PS5, if it's not fucking £1,000, then yeah, maybe I will.
At PluffyFX asks, the order of the story for me, I think that's the main issue. We kind of touched on that. I mean...
Yeah, we were talking before we started recording, what can you really do?
Yeah,
with this exact story.
Ever since I finished it, I've been just playing around in my head trying to think.
Yeah.
With the pieces that are already in play, what would be a better way to present it that would be more satisfying? And I really think structurally there's not much you can do with what they've done here.
Yeah, no joke. It has kept me up at night trying to think. Like how?
Yeah, because you start changing things, and then you're like, well, that kind of fucks the whole story.
Yeah,
the theme and everything.
I really think, had it not been spoiled, this would have been a game that would blow some people away. Just absolutely. Maybe that's the reason it's been so highly reviewed by critics, because they maybe intentionally avoided spoilers and got this really unique experience.
But at the same time, like, I've listened to a few of these like game journalist reviews and stuff, and they're just like vapid. You can't take away anything of substance because they are saying things like, this is changing storytelling in gaming, this is revolutionizing shit, and it's like, no, like, really describe what you're fucking talking about.
What that means is the graphics are really good,
or like, yeah, the cutscenes are like the
really
quality of a movie,
yeah,
or like a really good TV show.
No, I really appreciate that. Whereas, like, Uncharted 4 is just the most conventionally told story you could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
They actually did try and do something.
That's the thing. Like, I'll always respect an ambitious story that fumbles
and
more than something that doesn't even fucking try.
Yeah, definitely. It doesn't stumble because it's poorly thought through. It stumbles because it was really trying something. It was being ambitious.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
At Harriso, then a bunch of numbers, says, how Donkey said it was good, causing lots of people to completely change their opinions regardless of whether they'd actually played the game. I guess people were expecting Donkey to shit all over it.
Yeah, because he shat all over the first game when it first came out.
Yeah. But he came around on that, didn't he? Eventually?
Yeah, he did. He played it on the PS4.
It is much better on PS4.
Yeah.
Much better.
I haven't actually played it on PS4, but I believe you. I mean, the same thing happened when people were saying it was shit before it was out. People are very easily swayed by someone they respect.
So anyway, I just want to peek into the dimension where it didn't leak and just see how people are reacting, because I genuinely I don't know.
I don't know either, and I would like to watch this exact video in the reality where it wasn't leaked to see what we think.
Yeah, because possible that
I really do not know what my reaction would have been. I imagine pretty similar because I stand by the fact that, like, if a good movie is good, then whether you have it spoiled or not, it's still good. Like, I had Fight Club ruined for me.
Yeah, but I feel like everyone has. It was ruined for me before I watched it.
So,
or like The Sixth Sense as well. Like I
haven't even seen that movie. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I think the same applies to games. It is less exciting, and it does take an aspect away from it. But
yeah, there were more surprises than I was expecting.
Yeah, for sure.
The way the leaks kind of reduced it into its like wiki form, effectively.
Yeah.
It doesn't really do it complete justice. It's just a lot messier than the first game. I think we both agree on that.
Yeah, for sure. But I do think it's
if anything is more impressive about it is the structure of it. It's where it both falters and it's kind of impressive, where I haven't played a game where you, apart from I guess like Halo 2, which where you're like playing both sides of a conflict and you're kind of playing with that idea. I do really like that nugget, and you can see that was clearly where they were like creatively motivated to explore the story through. But yeah, it is quite messy. It's no like Godfather 2 or something like that.
Another movie I haven't seen. But yeah, I mean, people will always adjust their opinions depending on what people are saying. You know, it's like the bigger your influence, like obviously more people are going to be influenced by that.
Who decided that? Because this is what happened when I saw Joel died. Sorry to go back to this, but this is such a point of contention for people. When Joel died, I kept asking myself, why does this bother me? What is it about him dying like this that is bothering me? I want to like nail down what it is, because as everyone is in agreement with, no one cares that he dies. Like, everyone knew that it's the most fucking obvious story beat.
A lot of people do care that he dies. Like, they...
No, but it's not that he
though.
dies, it's that he dies in the way that he dies right at the beginning of the game.
Yeah. The thing is, The Last of Us 1 in my head, maybe this is just a memory thing, but like, that is so fitting for the world they've set up for Joel.
It's fitting, but at the same time, like, when The Last of Us ended, I wanted more. When The Last of Us 2 ended, there's not much like I really give a shit about seeing anymore.
No, and I think that is sort of a statement. It's like The
We're
Last of
done.
Us Part 2. Like,
So you don't think there's going to be a part 3?
I think... I mean, I probably said this exact thing about the first game at the time, but I think if they do more, because, I mean, Sony's going to want more. This is the best-selling Sony exclusive of all time. If they do more, it will be new characters, or maybe even Abby and Lev.
I don't know, man, because...
But probably not after the reaction to this game, and there's no like story beat left with those two characters,
No.
so it wouldn't make sense. But I would imagine new characters, or
But at that point,
or
it's like...
it makes me sick
what
to
is
say, but maybe a prequel.
What, like a prequel set when?
Don't they?
Yeah, they give the fans what they want. You play as Joel.
Yeah, you play as Joel and you play as Tommy, slaughtering children, women. Who gives a shit?
Akim Joby says, talk about the comparisons that have been made of The Last of Us 2 and movies. If that mindset actually shows in the final product, i.e. the game forgetting that it's a game that needs to be interactive for its message to come through. Super confusingly written tweet, but I think what he's saying is kind of what we talked about with it being...
I think it's worth asking the question, would it be better as a... But no.
as like a series or something.
Sure, it's like a valid comparison.
Yeah, because I noted down some revenge stories that we like, be it Old Boy, John Wick, Incredibles, Kung Fu Panda 2,
Kung Fu Panda 2,
Django Unchained, Godfather Part 2, Breaking Bad. They all have this kind of similar theme to it about, revenge.
Yeah.
They're not interactive in any way.
No.
They're just a story that's told the way they're told.
And it, as long as both the gameplay and the story support each other enough, that's absolutely fine.
And I guess it's
by
going to
me.
be down to you whether you going on a murderous rampage and then deciding not to follow through at the end.
Yeah, and it's
just
like
rings hollow or not.
the dissonance of, there's a part where Ellie gets stabbed by a tree, but right after that you can be shot 30 times, and as long as you've put some tape around your arm, you're absolutely fine.
At Soit Sparky says, thoughts of specific controversial elements, the ending, various twists, etc. We talked about Joel enough. The ending, I'm not quite sure I understand why the ending specifically is as hated as it is.
Because she doesn't kill Abby.
So is that what would make the story good?
No. Well, the way these people see it is...
I've seen the
she's
argument...
killed all these people, including the other characters that you're introduced to, but then when it comes to actually... It's like, I think they think it's a bit late for her now to stop.
So basically what I was saying about it just seeming kind of hollow and strange. Well, but this is the thing though, because you couldn't have a season of a show where every episode the main character, every episode is them like going through a place just slaughtering.
Yeah.
And then in the last episode they're like, well, you know what, this is bad. And then go home. Yeah, I do understand why that is quite weird.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's this thing of like, if a theme is explored in a way that you find satisfying,
yeah, that's
it's hard
the
to argue with. But it's at the same time, it's this whole thing people have with the Last Jedi, quite frankly, where they feel like the themes are above logical kind of character choices and that kind of thing. Where at a top level, it's all about like thematic through line instead of the characters and them staying and seeing and exploring what you'd expect them to do. But like,
I think because of the story that, or the world that the story is based in, you can really forgive. Like, killing someone in that world is totally different to killing someone right now. Like, there's way less weight to killing someone in that world.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens all the time.
Yeah, I don't think...
Like,
there's almost too much emphasis being put on the act of killing Abby being important. the important point is her deciding that this has to end now. And
yeah, the point is that she forgives Joel again. Like,
she's breaking the cycle, you know, the cycle that you can project like anything in your life too, where it's marking a point where you're sick of the torment and you want it to end, so you're doing something proactive by going against what you have been, like the mindset you've been trapped in.
Yeah.
You're breaking it. And I understand that it's like a powerful thing for a character to go through, and, and it gives the journey a bit more weight in like the kind of dramatic sense, but it does bother me, man, the countless murdering. I think it is just the brutality and violence of it. I can't empathize with a world that bleak.
I think you just have to try and imagine yourself in a world that bleak. I think sure, Ellie kills a lot of people, but if she stayed at home, she might have ended up having to kill a lot of people. If she might have just fucking gone for a walk and ended up having to kill fucking 6 people.
That's what I mean. But if you're trying to tell an empathetic story in a universe that is so fucking nihilistic,
yeah,
it is clumsy.
I think that's why doing a sequel, it's really bloody hard to come up with something that would work in that universe. And that first game really felt like everything was designed around this one story. The universe that it's set in isn't that flexible.
Yeah.
I'm still cool with it though.
Let's end on this one then from @Naughty88, who says, thoughts on the first game for comparison. We've mentioned it a couple of times, but I really like the story of the first game. I think it's a nice... I think it's the perfect length too, which this game isn't. I think it's too long. But yeah, I thought it was the perfect length. I thought it was paced really well. Music was really good. The beats.
Music is something we haven't really talked about, but music in the first game was so much better than the second one.
I don't know what happened with the music in this game.
It's like they just decided to not use it. And there's a few moments where they sort of call back to stuff from the first game, and it really is quite powerful.
Mm-hmm. I was expecting some new compositions though, or something, some new moments, because there's so many in the first game that like really punch and you remember them, like that opening. It just seemed a lot more present. I don't know if they just couldn't get the guy to work in the same capacity or what it was.
I don't know if it was just a thing of the first game is undoubtedly more hopeful. So the only real music you get in this one is just like ooh, ooh, like your heart beating.
Yeah,
just like a throbbing sort of sound.
Yeah, well, Druckmann said the first game's about love.
The
second game's about hate.
About hate, yeah.
Which again is something that does kind of come through because it is a pretty hateful game. Yeah,
but him saying that is so reductive of his own story.
Mm-hmm.
Stories.
Yeah, it's not just about hate. It's about the grayness of something like that in a universe where there are basically no rules. And so when is enough? You know?
Yeah.
In the depravity, when do you draw the line? And as of recording this, it has a 94 Metascore. Do you agree with that?
No. So this game isn't as good as they say.
Yeah.
But also, if you read the viewer,
the user score.
The user score, sorry.
From 104,000 ratings is a 4.9.
Also wrong. So this game isn't as good as they say. This game isn't as bad as they say. This game
is just as they say.
yeah, I guess. This game is as they say. Wait, no.
No, because
that doesn't work.
Because then you can just choose either one of them, both extremes.
This game is... They say.
This game is they say. Thanks for watching.